Well, that's all right. You got it off?
No, it's on. Second. I can hear it speaking. What if you need to, can you think of anything that I should ask? Maybe I'd like to ask the area, how many lots?
33.
I think we're just about covered.
There's 31 lots around the lake, and there's 2 besides, so it'd have a total of 33. We dug our own well, had Eberts dig our own well, and we had, we just, actually, that one well has furnished the water for 24 homes. And just as of last fall, when we went into the city, that we got city water and city sewer.
Right, that's what we were finding out tonight, they were saying the water was out to the city.
How much did it cost to buy one?
Well, we won't
To buy a
ask
lot?
that. We won't ask that, because that's, we
Well,
don't need to get that specific for our.
actually, the first lots that we sold for $3,200. And we had lots that sold for, I would say as low as $1,500. Or less. And today, those same lots are worth about 12 or 15,000. In fact, these lots over here that haven't sold, I don't think you could buy them for less than 15,000.
One thing I'm finding out the more we travel around this part of the country, back in these woods, back by the shores, and out, there is really pretty country out here.
Oh,
Very nice.
But it's, you know, if a person could just go back and see, or would actually, could imagine that this thing could develop and be like it is. You know, this farmland, actually, I don't think that this land really sold, that we really paid over, I doubt whether we paid $100 an acre for it.
Oh.
That's right. Well, it was just,
It was worthless.
just about worthless, see?
You really you made some wise investments in getting Caterpillar to develop. That is fantastic. It's great.
And Mr. Powley was the one that you gave the lot to, wasn't that right?
He's the one, Skip Polly was the fellow that took the lot that I gave up when I took this lot here.
That has the gravel pit down there.
I think he has a lot.
He did have, he sold his, but he was one of the original owners. He's the one that.
And he was one who, Clarence Polly and Gib Polly, his brother, both, they were both original owners.
And the other ones that got Caterpillar to come out and start the excavating.
Well, it was Jim Urban that really was the fellow that got Caterpillar to,
Oh, was it?
yeah. He was the one that we gave this lot to, or,
Oh, I thought it was Powley.
well, it was Jim Urban.
Oh,
He was working for Caterpillar and had quite a bit to do with Caterpillar at that time. In fact, they were transferred then over to Switzerland for 4 or 5 years.
Your pen here is so beautiful.
I wish I'd have
thank you.
taken a lot more of these pictures when, at the time, you know, I've taken the bleachers and so
Well,
forth.
if you would have known it was going to turn out just like it was, you would have taken more.
We had a Jeep that I traded for at that time, and actually that's the only way we could get around through here while the Caterpillar was working, was with a Jeep. Boy, it was just these here, just really rough, hills and hollows. Well, as I showed you that, you notice that one picture where it was really rough. And that's about what the whole area was.
Yeah. Now you can't tell what it was, if it was rough or.
No. So it's amazing what they can do with things today.
No, I think this just about puts it together. We've been getting information on the different subdivisions and the churches and the stores, and we get a picture of acre by acres, which we're going to And then one picture of the Zion Lutheran Church is the only thing that we haven't had a picture of.
Well, done real well then.
Well, let's don't say that till we get it all together for the final copy.
Not yet. Not yet.
I think that, I don't know who got the information or who laid the information on Sunnyland originally, but according to the paper, they said that Amos Good had sold that farm. But really, it was Henry Esser in Washington that owned
Right.
it.
That's what his son said.
Yeah.
Talked to Warren Goop, and he said that some of this material on the church that was built today, it wasn't really bought or given by the Goops. There was a corner of that land, and I can't recall the name now, that this other man actually did the donating of the land for the church that was
Was it
built
Fred
today.
Dunsey?
No, it was.
I don't know which church.
Had an A in it. There's a story about the church that was built on the day, on the Goof property, but it wasn't the Goof property.
That one guy, Frank, what his name was, football, he told us that.
Well, this was on, Lauren Goof told me, check the transcript tomorrow on the Lauren Goof transcript. But there are, and this is one thing we want to get it as accurate as we can.
I don't recall which church would be on the Guth property, because the one that they've just remodeled, you know, on the south side of the highway. Now, that property was really, it was Guth property years back. In fact, Sunnyland, what's Sunnyland, used to belong to a Guth family. I mean, shall I say Lauren Guth's grandparents. But they sold it then. And Henry Esser, this Henry August Esser that's in the insurance business, his father bought it. There was 92 acres there. The reason I know, I farmed it for 5 years. I lived on that from 1929 until 1934. And I farmed it. And then when I moved off of it, Lauren Good did farm it, but he never owned it.
And Henry Esser then sold it to be developed to Bruning.
That's right. And he was the fellow that sold it, and they developed it and laid out some of it. And then, of course, later, why the Amos Good sold his farm, and Joe Booth what was the fellow, the insurance name that lived in Joe Good's place? Wasn't Swanson and something like that. I can't think of it.
You know, we're finding out some of these things, so some of these subdivisions were named after, but we never did find out what Beverly Manor was named after.
I really don't know either, but Adam Bullen owned what is Beverly Manor. I don't recall who owned it
He isn't
before
living,
Adam.
is he?
How's that?
Adam isn't living, is he?
Oh, no. That's Pete's father. Pete Bullen's father was the
Well,
one.
maybe he would know.
Well, we talked to him.
Oh, did you?
I
We were
really-
trying to find a picture of that Zion Lutheran Church. Do you know Howard Holtz by any chance? H-U-L-S-E, Holtz? Well, we found it in the cemetery back, which I guess is still, which is now on the Schmaker estate, which is owned, I guess, by a corporation, the bank as a trustee or something.
It's right there by,
Back of ICC, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
Or the Schmager?
yeah, the Anchor Bar Acres is, but that actually, they said, was part of 5 farms that they bought around 1932 during the Depression. But there was part of it that I gathered it was back here and behind Beverly Manor. And Rover told me too that it was part of the Schmaker estate. And we found a cemetery, a little cemetery that was on it, but the headstones were torn off. The only thing that's left is the tiger lilies. The back of this woods, behind the American Legion, there's a field and then there's the woods. And it's before you get to the one on Ernest Street, and it's back behind the Nature Center. And there's all these tiger lilies. But, and it's the Holtz that was buried there, Aaron Holtz.
Oh, I remember him, sure, remember him. He was the one that lived, well, the house is torn down now, but they're right across the road from Herstein. Right across the high road there from Herstein is where Aaron Holtz used to live. That was Holt's place, and then now it's owned by Anchor Barn, that ground, isn't it? I think it's owned by Anchor.
It might be there because Anchor Bar owns, or Schmager owns this land.
Yes.
Well, Anchor Bar, the corporation.
There's a little cemetery right there, just west of this Herstein's, right along that street.
Yeah, on Aaron Street. Well, this is behind it. This was just in, Mr. Wagner, Mr. Milton Wagner said that was part of some relatives of Aaron Hurst, but, or Holtz, but. But I hear it thundering out there.
No, you know, that's the wind.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought I heard it thundering.
I'd ask him for Mark Martin. Never heard of Hardy Royal. I had to ask that for Mark.
How was that?
Have you ever heard of a guy named Hardy Royal?
It's not a
It's
guy,
a horse. Oh, it's a horse.
On this Anchor Bar Acres, we went back there, and the kids know we've been looking for cemeteries and other things, and they're having to do with history studying. So one of the boys one morning came saying, running car, I found the cemetery, I found the cemetery. All of us go see what's down, so we drove out during lunch, and we found it, and we knocked on the door, and the people that are running the Schmager farm, a couple of horses were there.
Oh,
His name is,
Well, for heaven's sake.
yeah, we got that leads from Mark. Her name was,
You still have your tape on over here?
Right, we've
Why
got.
don't you shut it off?
Right.
And I'll,